Okay, I made a new folder for you all in the YouTube, right? So that's not to confuse last year's year two, sekarang all year two kan? So it's not to confuse last year's year two. So I made a new folder for you all on YouTube. So you all are year 2022, year two Safina in YouTube in YouTube. You can find it there. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ونور قلوبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم وعين التعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين 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 الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. Okay, last semester we actually finished the entire chapter on Salat. Is my internet okay? Okay. Because I froze for a while. Okay, last semester we finished the chapter on Salat, right? So today we're going to go into Zakat. Is it breaking like? Okay, finish Nazar also. Finish Nazar. We are on Zakat. Right, so it's all done. Alhamdulillah. We're quite on schedule with our syllabus. Interesting. Usually Fiqh I never on schedule, but for some reason for your class I am very much on schedule. Alhamdulillah. It's a good thing. Because I miscalculated last semester. Remember? I thought we're gonna end earlier than I thought we were gonna end. There was a miscalculation. Okay. So Alhamdulillah, which means that we're on schedule. Inshallah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Zakat. فصل أموال التي تلزم فيها زكاة ستة أنواع. Section, the wealth upon which zakat is compulsory, there are 6 types. And what are they? Number 1, النعم. الثاني النقدان. الثالث المعشرات. الرابع أموال التجارة أموال التجارة نعم واجبها ربع العشر قيمة عروض التجارة. الخامس الركاز. السادس المعادن. Right, section, the wealth upon which we are of 6 types. The first type, livestock. Right, and livestock has a definition to it. Right, what do we mean by livestock? Then we have money, right, and we're going to speak more about money. Naqdan, which basically is gold and silver, and it's going to be understood in our time what is money. And then we have crops, and not all kinds of crops. We're going to speak about it as well. And then you have wealth acquired from businesses, right, in which 2.5% of the value of the commodity should be discharged. Again, we'll discuss this, right? So especially with businesses of our time, right, how are we going to give zakat from business? And then treasure troves. This is basically found treasure, right? And found treasure, again, I will give the conditions. What kind of treasure is found treasure, right? And then mines, right? And mines basically gold and silver mines. So if somebody were to mine for gold and silver, to find gold and silver, what is it for them? Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alright, so before we go into the topic of zakat, because zakat is all about money, alright, and the thing that Imam Ghazali is going to share a few things like this for the the tasting in fiqh, the sweetness of fiqh, the sweetness of fiqh, because now zakat macam like zakat, inshallah, so hardcore and so dry. Not dry. Actually, I love zakat. Zakat is one of my favorite topics in fiqh. It's all about maths, mashallah. Maths and Islam go together, mashallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Right? Imam Ghazali, he speaks about shukr. In pula ni macam tasawuf, insyaAllah. No, this is zakat. Is zakat, right? Imam Ghazali, he speaks about shukr, right? And he says that shukr, right? What is shukr? Shukr is to use, the definition of shukr, it is to use what Allah has created for what it has been created for. You understand that? To use what Allah has created for what it has been created for. That is shukr, right? So for example, your feet. Allah created your feet to stand in prayer. Allah created your feet to help to go and walk around and help other people. Allah created your feet to go and search for sustenance, for rizki. Allah created your feet, right, to go and maybe go for hajj, go for sa'i, go for tawaf and so on. Right? Allah created your feet for acts of obedience. So to show your shukr for your feet, you use your feet for what it was created for. What's the link to zakat? Okay, the link to zakat is that Allah created all these forms of wealth that you see in front of you, right? Allah created these forms of wealth for what they are meant to be used for, right? So for example, livestock. Allah created livestock, right, for people to consume, for people to drink its milk. All right? Livestock is not created for you to keep it and look at it. This is not what livestock is created to do. Right? Allah created wealth for wealth to be consumed. So the whole topic of zakat is to force people to not be obsessed with wealth as wealth, but to see wealth as consumables to be consumed. Right? The zalim, right, the oppressor here, what is oppressive here is to take wealth and not consume it, and not allow for others to consume it. That is evil, and that is wrong, and that is against being shukr, and that is a form of injustice, and that is why there is poor in this world, because there are people who keep wealth for their obsession with wealth and not using wealth for what wealth was created for. See that? Zakat stops this. It's kind of nonsense. Zakat stops human beings from being obsessed with the amassing and the accumulation of wealth. This is the genius of zakat. Genius, the divine genius, the genius in zakat. You know, subhanallah. Allah disallows, because Allah knows the nature of human beings, that human beings, after a while, not after a while, when the very beginning, they begin to obsess about wealth in its essence, whereas wealth has no value until it is used. See that? Right? Wealth has no value until it is used. For as long as it's not used, it has no value. Think about it, right? If you have $100,000 notes in your drawer and you don't use these notes for years on end, this is paper in your drawer. It's just paper. It has no value whatsoever. You just put in your drawer and keep it there. For hundreds, this is a very funny story. I tell you one story. Then I go into zakat, okay? It's a very funny story. I read kid story lah. Kami merasa junior, I was doing some work there. Then I saw this on the poster on the wall. I was like, cerita funny Arabic story. So I went to read it lah. It's quite a funny story. So the story is macam ni. The story is bakhil. Bakhil meaning miser. Miser, stingy person. So this bakhil, this miser, he goes to the marketplace. He buys a huge slab of gold. Okay, goes to the marketplace, buys a huge slab of gold. He goes back home and then to his garden, and that's laughing already. He goes back home, he goes to his garden, He digs his garden, a deep hole. He puts a slab of gold inside the hole and he covers it up. Okay? He covers up, he buries his gold. Every day, he goes out, routine. Every day, he goes out, digs up the gold, right? Admires his gold. Then he buries it again. Every day he does this. His neighbor saw him, has been seeing him doing it. And the neighbor was like, why this guy? Right? So every day he will dig up his gold, look at his gold, admire his gold, and then bury it again. Mashallah. So one day, to check if his gold is still there. So one day, he went out, right? He dug up the garden, looked for his gold, and his gold was gone. Someone stole the gold, and the gold's not there anymore. So he begins to shout and wail and pull his hair, and he's like, Ya laytani, in Arabic lah. Whoa, it's me, I'm destroyed. Made a big commotion. So neighbor came out from his house. Neighbor was like, what's wrong? And the guy was like, my gold. Someone took my gold. It's been stolen. It's a terrible thing that has happened in my life. He was shouting. The neighbor was like, what's the problem? All you have to do right now is go and get a slab of rock, put it in the place of the gold, and you can carry all your daily activities. Because basically he used the gold to stare. Right? The neighbor is just being sarcastic. But basically, there's a lesson there. He did not use the gold for what it was created for. Right? So you might as well have a rock there. You're going to stare at gold every day. Take a rock paint gold and put there. You're not going to use your gold. Correct. So the thing about zakat prevents obsession with wealth. Human beings fall into wealth obsession. It's a sickness in human beings. Sickness. There are people in our world right now who are called closet millionaires or closet billionaires. You can go and search it online. What are they? In their bank account, they have 6 digits bank account. And they have a sickness that they cannot see their bank account go below 6 digits. They panic. So if their bank account go below 6 digits, that means a million, or 7 digits, a million. Right? If it goes below 7 digits, they panic. And they make it go up again to 7 digits savings. But they live in a small apartment, a simple life. But they have a sickness that they have to see the number 7 digits. They must see. Sickness, right? Because money is not meant for you to look at. Stare at money the whole day. And you're not meant to do that. Sit there and stare at your livestock, stare at your crops, stare at the money, stare. Like Allah didn't create all these things for that. Zakat stops it. Stop this kind of nonsense that human beings will fall into. Because instead of using wealth for what wealth was created for, they will begin to obsess about wealth. And wealth is not to be obsessed about. Okay. We think about livestock, it's obvious why Allah created livestock. We think about crops, it's obvious why Allah created crops. Right? There is intrinsic, use in livestock. There is intrinsic use in crops. You eat it. You drink the milk, right? You make clothes. There's this intrinsic value in these things. When you look at trade is material, right? There is an intrinsic value in trade as well. It's material that you trade back and forth. But when you look at gold and silver, right? Gold and silver does not satisfy any human need. Think about it. Right? If you're in a famine, your gold and silver has no use to you unless you can go and buy food. Right? If you're in the famine, if your entire country has no food, you can have $1 billion. It does not benefit you in any way. You see that? You can't eat the gold. You can't eat silver. You can't eat money. Right? If no one can sell you food, your money is useless. See that? So gold and silver has been created to place value in what we actually need. You see that? Human beings need place of living. Human beings need food. Human beings need clothing. Basically is what we need: a place of living, food, clothing, right? And of course drink lah. Is what we need. Correct? Our whole life revolves around this. Think about it. All your expenditure, now we have all kinds of expenditure, right? But our whole life technically revolves around our food, our clothing, our place of living. So our job is to support this. That's why you buy phone, you buy car, you buy this, you buy that, to have a job to support your needs eventually. Right? It all goes back to your needs, correct? And the needs of those who are around you. See that? So in the past, with regards to trade, right? So someone might have a lot of dates, and some might have a lot of cows. For example, some might be a tailor, good at making clothes. They have a lot of one type of need. So what human beings do in society is that they trade, they exchange. So I say, okay, my one piece of clothing, right? I will exchange for maybe a basket of dates, for example. I will say that, right? Basket of dates for one piece of clothing. Agree? We agree. Okay. I want to have some meat, or I want to get a cow, for example. I get a cow from the farmer of the cows. I'll get one whole cow. Farmer say, oh, cow expensive. Cow, I take so long to rear this cow. So you say that, but I only make clothes. I only make shirts. So you say, can I give you like 50 shirts for one cow? Then the farmer be like, what am I going to do with 50 clothes? 50 shirts? Like, give me, I mean, I'm not going to trade the whole cow for 50 shirts. I don't need 50 shirts. That's when gold was brought into the picture. Right? So one shirt is one gold coin. One cow is 500 gold coins. So with this gold, wealth becomes fluid. So I don't have to give you 50 shirts for one cow. What are you going to do with 50 shirts? But I can give you the gold coins. And you can choose to do whatever you want to do with the gold coins. You see that? So gold in itself has no value. Gold in itself, by itself, it's not edible. You can't eat it, you can't wear it, you can't shelter yourself with it. Okay? Gold in itself has no value. But gold is used to give value to what actually has value. You see that? That's what gold is for. So is gold meant to be kept? Not at all. Like, gold is not meant to be kept. But gold is meant to be used to acquire what you need. That's what gold is for. If you understand all of these things, you understand zakat. You understand why the zakat is there. And why zakat is wajib, compulsory. Allah makes it compulsory on everyone to give out zakat. Because with the accumulation of wealth and the obsession on gold, right, comes poverty. Necessarily, it will bring about poverty. The stop in the flow of wealth brings about poverty. It is not a lack of wealth that brings about poverty. It is a lack about poverty. Right? So now you see in our COVID era, it's the COVID era, when wealth stops flowing, and you see it in poor countries like Indonesia, in Malaysia, you see in poor countries, the wealth stops flowing. What happens to people? Like, they go into abject poverty because the wealth used to flow from richer countries into their country. It used to flow. But with the stop in travel, right, the stop in tourism, the stop in a lot of things, wealth stopped flowing. And with the stop in flow of wealth, right, came poverty. And so zakat forces the flow of wealth. Right? It forces. So it allows for you to keep wealth if you want to keep wealth. And this is a genius of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah genius. This is a genius of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only 2.5% needs to be flowed. Only 2.5%. Subhanallah. Just that amount needs to flow. And that would cure, or that would solve world poverty. If 2.5% of wealth worldwide was forced to be flowed, right, to be pushed, and even not on everybody, but on the rich, because zakat is on the rich, right? The zakat harta, zakat of wealth, is on the rich, those who have more than nisab, right? If that amount, 2.5 of the wealth of the wealthy, is made to flow, that would cure world poverty. That is genius, inshallah. Who would have thought of that? Who would have known that? Of course, Allah knows that, right? But no human being would have figured it out. So zakat is one of the proofs of the truth of Islam. Zakat, because it is not humanly possible to figure this out. To tell me if I give out this amount of wealth, poverty is eradicated. To tell me if I have more than how many camels, or how many goats, how many sheep, how many cows, right? Poverty will be eradicated. To tell me all of this, the numbers are so precise that it's only from the Creator who knows all these numbers. Subhanallah. Human beings can't figure this out, because it's on the scale of the world. It's a worldwide scale. Right? So if everybody in Singapore were to perform their zakat, there'd be no poor in Singapore. And this was proven in the golden age of Islam. Right? When in the time of Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz, right, the zakat was done so well, they could not find anybody to give zakat. Because the zakat was done within 1 year. Within 1 year, of zakat being done well, poverty was eradicated. They could not find poor. In the whole Islamic empire, they could not find a single poor person, not even a non-Muslim who was poor. They actually eradicated poverty in that time. This is miraculous. Never in the history of modern day human beings, subhanallah, that pride themselves for being modern. Look at our poverty level now. Go to all the developed countries, America, the UK, Singapore, mashallah, the poor is poor. They are poor. Have you seen the poor in our country? The poor in America, the poor in the UK, the poor in Canada, the poor in all in these countries that pride themselves of being first world. The poor in the Arab nations. Seen the poor there? They are poor, the abject poor. Subhanallah. And because why? And they said they pride themselves of their own morality. They can't even eradicate poverty. Subhanallah. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the laws of zakat, has been proven in the history of Islam to eradicate poverty in the entire Islamic empire. The whole empire. Not a single person was asking for zakat. Everybody was giving zakat. Nobody was asking for zakat. Subhanallah. Okay, anyway, going back. So, alhamdulillah. Today for session 9, so can next a bit, can talk a bit. Okay, the six types. The first one, livestock. So, point number 1, zakat is wajib on every Muslim, male, female, adult, or child. So zakat is not by baligh, right? Zakat is not by it's not under the you won't say placed on the mukallaf, right? The mukallaf is the one who is baligh aqil. No, zakat, because the whole point of zakat is flow of wealth. A child can hold a lot of wealth, possible, right? Because an orphan to millionaire parents, rich. Orphans doesn't mean necessarily poor. Orphans can be very rich. My orphan nephew is very rich, richer than me. Because people keep giving him money. He got so much money. My sister be like, "Yola, he's so rich. I need money." No, inshallah. Orphans can be rich because depending on their parents lah. If their parents left behind a whole lot of wealth, they're rich. No, subhanallah. A person not sound mentally can also be rich. Right? By inheritance, or by inheritance, they can be rich. Right? So zakat, the people who are looking after the wakil, the people who are looking after these human beings, right? They are to take out the zakat for these human beings. Okay, they take out the zakat for these human beings. So zakat is what on every Muslim, regardless of age, regardless of mental ability, regardless of anything. As long as a human being, zakat is on you, right? But then we go into the conditions of zakat. So I hope that now you're all getting more and more excited about zakat. Like learn zakat and get so, it's a fresh view of what is zakat all about. And then it will it actually, like for me personally, it gives an iman boost. Every time I teach zakat, I get an iman boost, right? Because it's so perfect. Subhanallah, it's so divine. Zakat is a divine gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now, who possesses a zakat payable amounts for 1 lunar year. 1 lunar year. And when we speak about 1 haul meaning 1 lunar year, right? So it's from the point when your wealth exceeds the minimum zakat amount. Alright? Okay, for most of us, we don't own livestock. We don't own crops. Okay? We might have businesses. Okay? And for most of us, our zakat is on our money. Right? So for most people here, I don't think that people here actually have some like farm somewhere. Unless you do overseas, you hold some farm. Right? But most people don't. We don't actually have farms. Right? So we're actually looking at two types of zakat: business and money. Okay? I don't think anyone here also would find, maybe you might find some treasure lah, but someday in your life you find treasure, right? But the treasure also has to be pre-Islamic treasure. Pre-Islamic treasure means treasure that was buried from before the Islamic era of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which means it's ancient treasure from more than 1,400 years ago. So if you ever find such a treasure, if ever in your life you find treasure and you can date it back to 2,000 years ago, for example, and it's way before the Islamic era, right? Then you have rikas meaning buried treasure, right? If you ever own some mining company to mine gold or silver, if ever that happens, then you have to look into the zakat of mining, right? Of mining gold and mining silver. But for most of us, we are only limited to zakat of money and zakat of trade. Right, two things. Zakat of businesses and zakat of money. Two things. Alright, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Right, so for example, money, right? Money, the nisab right now in Singapore is about 6,000, if I'm not wrong, or 7. Around there, 6 or 7. You're correct. In the MUIS website, do check. What is the nisab in Singapore right now? I think it's about 6 or 7,000. You can very simply go to the MUIS website and just calculate. Let me show you all. Yes, go to the MUIS website and then you calculate what is the nisab. Nisab zakat MUIS deh. Can you see that? What's the nisab? Ada everywhere. Ada current and past nisab values. Right, so just go there. Singapore is around. It should be around there, right? That's why you say it's rich. It's kind of rich, right? Because you have to be holding this wealth for a full year. There, 6.9, quite close, right? I see $7,000. Right, it's 6,900, okay, dollars nisab. So if you kept in your bank account, $7,000 for a good year, why do you do that? Right? Unless you are saving up for something lah, but even then you have to give out the zakat. Even then the zakat is wajib on you, right? So anyway, just wait there to go and check that one out. Computer is a bit right now is 7,000, for example, 7,000. So if you have 7,000 in your bank, it has to complete a full year and then you give out the zakat. Alright, so it has to complete a full year before you give out the zakat. Right, so if it doesn't complete a full year, if a child has that amount and that amount completes a full year without being used, right, it doesn't go below the nisab, the guardian for the child must give out the zakat. Okay, so if you are a guardian over an orphan who owns all this wealth. You need to give out the zakat on behalf of the child. Okay, compulsory. Right, so it's possessed zakat payable amount for 1 lunar year. Okay, I was about to say 1 lunar year. So basically, if you're saving money, for example, so you're saving money, you want to go for Hajj. It's one of the reasons why we save money, right? Save money, go for Hajj. Save money, you want to get married. But if you get married, you spend it in the year, lah. Usually, the kind of money you save, they will extend more than 1 year. Would be for Hajj, probably. Would be for studies, maybe, right? Buying a house, probably, right? If you want to actually save up some cash. So okay, so you begin saving up cash. So right now you have 3,000 in your bank. You're saving up. You save halfway through the year, your bank account hits the nisab value. So your bank account goes above 6.9. Okay, now you must record that date in the Hijri calendar, not in the Gregorian calendar, Hijri calendar. So you monitor your bank account. You see, okay, on the 1st of Ramadan, or maybe make it easier, on the 1st of on the 1st of what, Jumadil Thani, right? Jumadil Thani. The first Jumadil Thani, you see that your bank account went above 6.9. Your year begins there. Okay, your zakat year begins when your savings, when it exceeded the nisab value. This is where a lot of people have a misconception. They think the zakat year is on the 1st of Muharram, or the 1st of January, or the 1st of Ramadan. No, your zakat year is when your amount exceeds the nisab. And that's when your year begins. Okay? When it says nikah, you see that it exceeds nikah, then it is the nisab. So you monitor. It's above the nisab, in fact, it went higher and higher and higher. Right? Above the nisab, went higher and higher and higher. Right? So the next year, the 1st of Jumadil Thani, you look at the entire year, you see that the entire time, your zakat was above the minimum nisab value. Alright? So the lowest amount for the year, you're going to pay 2.5% of that. Alright? If during the year, your zakat, your savings dips, right? So maybe you had an expenditure, right? And then your savings dip below the nisab value. It went down to 5,000, for example, right? That means the year, there is no year. It stopped. Okay? And you begin to count again when it goes back up above the nisab value. Later on, inshallah, in the future lessons, I'll give you all a chart, right, for you to be able to see when is the year. Right? When does the year begin? Or when is the year? When it's startnafa in Arabic. It means that it has become is null. The year is null. Because your savings went below the zakat, the minimum nisab. Okay? Right, so in 1 lunar year, the lunar year is calculated from when your savings went above the zakat amount. Okay? Now, so zakat on livestock is limited to 3 types of livestock. Right? You have al-ibl, camels, al-baqar meaning all forms of cows. So cattle, buffalo, cow, whatever lah, the cow family, whatever they are lah, the cow family, right? And then you have al-ghanam, sheep and goats, and the family of sheep and goats, right? So whatever animals that resemble sheep and goats, like all over the world, okay, the family of sheep and goats. So zakat is wajib when one has owned, first, a zakat payable number of livestock, which inshallah later on we will learn about what they are. So there is a nisab for livestock. With regards to zakat that we don't really get involved with, like livestock, crops, buried treasure, mining. So zakats that we're not really involved with, or you might live your life having never paid such zakats in your life. You will learn it, to honor the knowledge of it, right? But it's theory, right? That it is almost impossible for most of us here in Singapore to actually apply that knowledge, right? Unless one day you own some camels and then you want to give zakat on your camels. inshallah. So it went above the nisab, right? Zakat payable number of livestock, number of livestock. It is 1 lunar year. It means you held the amount for 1 lunar year, right? Number 3, it has been grazing on unowned open range pasturage for the entire year. This is the most beautiful part about Islam, mashallah. This is what tells you what zakat's all about. Number 3, the animal must have been fed by no man's land. Basically that. So basically this animal that you own, you did not buy the fodder for the animal. Alright, see that? You did not buy the fodder or the food for the animal, but you brought the animal out into open pasture that belongs to nobody. It's no one's land. It's not your farm. It's not your farm. It's just open pasture. Like in the past, they used to bring the goats out to open pasture, and they would just graze on open pasture that belongs to nobody, but it actually belongs to the entire society. So you see what has happened here, that if you took your goats, right, and you brought them out to the mountains, for example, like Nabi Muhammad sometime, right, the goats brought them out to the mountains, and the goats feed on the open grass in the mountains. This grass belongs to the whole community of people who are there, because Allah, when Allah sends down rain, right, the rain are for the people in the town, right? So the grass grows on this rain. Your sheep is eating the grass of the people, not your grass, the grass of the people. So your sheep are getting fat and producing milk from the grass of the people that Allah has provided for the people, right? Therefore, you must pay zakat, right? Because you have some wealth that does not belong to you. In fact, all of your sheep being fed on the grass, right? You're feeding your sheep on the grass, right? So then you have to give back to society what your sheep took from society for free. See that? Subhanallah. Which makes you think 2.5% is very little, mashallah. But his sheep is not 2.5%. Sheep is 1 out of every 40. Or 1 out of every 30. Right? Sheep is there is another percentage. It is 2.5%. One out of every 40 sheep you have to go in zakat. But if you bought the food, right, you went out, you bought the food, or you bought the land belongs to you. You bought the land, so the grass in the land belongs to you, and your sheep eat from your property, then there is no zakat at all on your sheep. Zero zakat. Subhanallah, inshallah. Subhanallah. It's so amazing. Zakat. So amazing. When you learn all the laws, it's like we're learning all these things. We're never going to give out zakat in sheep, maybe. I don't know. But I don't see myself giving out any zakat in sheep. Maybe speak too soon. Maybe tomorrow, next year I got some sheep. But learning it, to me is mind blowing. How Allah has done this, right? Because your sheep ate from the land of the people, you got to give 1 sheep out for every 40 sheep, right, to account for that land your sheep ate from. Right? But if your sheep ate from your land or from your money, then no zakat on you. With regards to crops, if your crops was watered by the sky, if your crops was watered naturally by rain from the sky, or from groundwater naturally coming out, or from the river flooding naturally, then you must give 10% of zakat. 10%, quite a lot. Because the rain is for society, but your crops took most of the rain. So therefore, 10% out zakat. But if you put in effort and you paid for irrigation, you built irrigation canals, and you water your crops with your own effort, right? Your crops still benefit from the rain. So zakat on you, 5%, half. Subhanallah. And so so if it's fully by the environment, 10% out. If you put in effort to grow your crops, 5% out. Subhanallah. So inshallah, I will continue this in the next lesson. Nice.